Hello, everybody, and welcome to podcast number 43 of The Real Estate Show. I'm Cherise Selley. With me is Shawna Uehling. We are part of Selley Group Real Estate here in Colorado Springs, and we are bringing you relevant real estate news for this area, as well as going through some national articles and talking about the real estate market in general. So, Shawna, I'm so happy that you're back with me, and we talked a lot on the last podcast about buyers, about the new prices and what the average price home now it's literally $699 difference to buy a home from maybe a month ago versus now due to the interest rate increase. The average home price has increased in the El Paso County stats by nearly 5%. Mm-hmm. So we're up at that 539, 684 range, but that only changes the payment about $107 from where it was a month ago at 514. But when you add the interest rate increase, and if somebody's locking in at 5% right now, which as of shooting this podcast, that's what our buyers are locking in at. Mm-hmm. So when they're locking in at 5%, even with great credit, that changes their payment to that $699 range. So It's not going to get cheaper waiting later in the year to buy a home, people. Sorry. Yeah. I wish we could give you better news, but as interest rates climb, that's a bigger deal than even if the price stabilizes later this year. Mm-hmm. Because at some point, the whole purpose of raising interest rates is to try to, maybe take some of this uncontrollable price increases that we're having and stabilize that a little bit. And I do think prices may at some point stabilize, but I don't see a crash happening right now.
Right. I don't either.
It's a supply and demand thing. Mm-hmm. And like as of the date yesterday that I was prepping to shoot this, there was literally just still a few hundred homes that were in the market right now, active, existing single family. And, we might have like 400 and something homes that are active inventory because that includes new construction. It includes listings that are not actually there. But we're still, yes, our supply has gone up, but it is not meeting the demand. And that's not just here. It's a national thing that's happening.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some of the bright spots in Colorado Springs and why, when you're part of this marketplace, what are some of the things that kind of set it apart from people considering other parts of the United States to move to? And we've talked about in previous podcasts the incredible climate, the weather, the outdoor living, access to hiking, access to so many things that involve nature in those outdoor spaces. But This is also an incredible business climate.
It really is.
It is. And this is an area where we are becoming a much more relevant city than we used to be. Mm-hmm. And so besides our reputation as Olympic City now and those parts of our area of our town that are growing in recognition, we also have, a great military presence and we have Space Force here. Mm-hmm. We have so many things that are adding into the economy for aerospace and cybersecurity and those things. But Shawna, you mentioned something because it was in today's Gazette.
Yes.
So I think this is really relevant to that booming growth close to where you live.
Yeah, on the north side off of Voyager, actually, it's going to break ground in about 45 days, and it's an 8,000-seat new amphitheater that'll be created with west-facing views, and it's called the Sunset because all the concerts will start at sunset. And it's said to be the Red Rocks of the South.
I mean, that is so exciting.
So that's kind of cool.
The Red Rocks of the South, people.
Yeah, all we need is Guns N' Roses to come. We can be a real city. Yeah.
That is hilarious, Shawna.
But that should be fun. Maybe I'll even hear the concerts from my house. I don't know.
Wouldn't that be something?
That'd be cool. But it does sound really amazing. And what a great, it'll draw people from Denver coming down. And, there's just a lot of fun stuff going in on the north side of town.
There
and that's
really
going to be
is.
great.
Billions of dollars of growth happening. Mm-hmm. So much is happening. And this kind of ties into an article that was written on April 3rd by the Gazette Telegraph. And Rich Layden was the author of the article, but he interviewed different commercial real estate agents in the city. And the title was Holding Its Own, meaning that our city has held its own even since COVID. Mm-hmm. It had set things back for the nation. Colorado Springs has definitely held its own as far as the commercial climate here. Now, there are some things that have been impacted, and I bet you just without even looking at those notes, probably the thing that has been impacted the most. Would you take a guess? If you were to think about all the commercial climate, what do you think is the most impacted thing?
From COVID?
Yes, and here locally.
I don't know.
Okay, you don't know. Well, that's fair. That's fair. You're allowed to not know. I bet
I'll probably
you do.
remember once you tell me.
Yeah, I bet deep down you know, but it'll come to mind as I say it. But the biggest thing that has been hit is that large scale office space.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It does make sense. And even before COVID, let's take it on a small scale business level on our business. Mm-hmm. We have an office that we don't meet in regularly. In fact, we never meet here. We meet, our office meetings are more of, let's
lunch
connect.
Meetings.
Yes, over lunch. Let's go through things organically, naturally. People are working from their homes.
Yeah, they are.
That's not going to change.
No.
So the one suffering part of the business world is those gigantic office spaces, particularly the ones that are 30,000 square feet or larger. Mm-hmm. It said in the article, and vacancy for those spaces is around 2 million square feet. So I don't really know how to put that in reference until the article talked about it. It's the size of Chapel Hills and the Citadel put together. That's how much vacancy for large office space there is. And that doesn't include the subleases that are available. Peter Scoville of CS Commercial Cushman in Wakefield had talked about those contributions to the article. So the vacancy for office space has jumped up. It's the only thing that's really jumping up to increase, and it's at 9%.
So what that tells me is people need to be creative. Think of some cool businesses that can go into these spaces and be different and fill them up.
Yes, absolutely. Because there's some incredible
indoor skydiving.
Let's do that after this podcast. It's right up there where that amphitheater is going to be.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. So, and let's talk about another segment of commercial. We have two more to cover. This next one, I think, resounds in our hearts because we love to eat out, right? Mm-hmm. Retail. Retail has held its own through COVID, even during all of the changes in restaurants shutting down, which actually has broken our hearts. Some of these restaurants are permanently gone.
Yeah. But
the good news is many held their own and many other restaurants have taken their place. Mm-hmm. And because there's such high economic growth and development in Colorado Springs, it has really helped the retail space to hold its own. And vacancy is lower. Listen to this. This is interesting. At the end of 2021, the vacancy for retail was lower than it was at 2020. So in 21, the vacancy was 4.75%. Now keep that in mind. Large office space vacancy, 9%.
Yeah.
Vacancy for retail, 4.75%. Versus 5.7% at the end of 2020. Resilience to me is the key word on this because retail has been resilient.
Mm-hmm.
It's found new creative things and ways to work around COVID here. And so that leaves the last segment of the commercial market. And I think it's very interesting because we see this as, we're driving, especially like towards the southeast part of the city. And you look at Amazon, which looks like a city within a city.
Yeah, the thing is huge.
It is so gigantic. It's like, I don't remember the exact scale of it but I think it's miles. Like my Apple Watch would have all of its rings met if I worked there within a couple hours, I think. It's amazing. So industrial buildings is perhaps the strongest segment of the market. And it's interesting because their vacancy was around 5% it was 5% at 2021, according to the article. So interestingly enough, there's sitting office space, the size of Citadel and Chapel Hills Mall. But for industrial space, the growth and the building that's projected is at 1.2 million square feet of industrial space. It's planned by developers along Peterson Avenue on the city's east side for the next several years. And that was said by Randy Davis, a principal and senior broker with NAI Highland. And there is also a proposed, listen to this, a 58,500 square foot industrial building, which is planned for the southeast side of Colorado Springs. Mm-hmm. So why is that important for us as residential real estate agents? We can connect you to commercial brokers who can help you if you're trying to forge a way here into Colorado Springs and you have a company that might be filling some of these spaces and you have a need. We know the people in the community that can help fulfill that. But secondarily, this is impacting the residential market.
Yeah.
It's, where there's giant industrial buildings bringing jobs into one part of town. The zip codes related to the southeast part of town were in huge news articles that those were the zip codes that were like what top zip codes to buy in. I forgot if it was realtor.com or who wrote that article, but it was one of the top zip codes to buy in down in the southeast part of Colorado Springs due to there's so much growth happening.
Yeah, and there's lots of new builds going on down there too.
And that would be for like speculative investors and people like that are where jobs are changing the communities.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the industrial's going down there because it's proximity to Colorado Springs Airport.
Yes.
It's very easy to ship in and out, and they're very friendly to that climate. So a lot of places want to, locate close to that airport.
That's great. And it's such a cool airport. It's so much easier than navigating than Denver.
Yeah. Little hometown airport.
But it's growing. It's growing. So this is the good stuff. These are the bright spots. These are the important things to know when you're considering real estate and learning about real estate for the Colorado Springs market. We have a healthy business climate and we have a healthy job climate here.
Mm-hmm, we do.
So there is so much happening.
Pretty diverse.
It is diverse. So when sellers are even trying to figure things out or, understand that your home is a valuable commodity because it represents something that a lot of cities are not able to give right now, which is a lot of optimism or a lot of potential for growth. And I think that is part of what will continue to stabilize things when everything feels so weird right now in the market.
Yeah.
That it's just very cool to see we have multifaceted approaches in Colorado Springs to keep our climate healthy.
Mm-hmm. It's important.
It is. So thank you so much for joining us on this podcast, and we look so forward to connecting with you next time.